Hello, everyone. Welcome back, day 28. How have you been? And please let me know from which all city you have joined today. And I'm really glad you all have made time for today's session. Thank you so much. All right. And please settle in. Start with a deep breathe in and exhale. And we're just going to start in few minutes. With this, I would like to start. We have been together for around 28 days. It's and today we are going to arrive one another level deeper because we are going to talk about emotional struggles. And because underneath many emotional struggles, there is often one core issue. That is, the nervous system no longer feels emotionally safe. And the hardest part is many people don't even realize they have been living in the survival mode for years. So, in this 28th day, if you have been here from the beginning, or say if you have found your way here somewhere in the middle, or just say today, I want you to know your presence in this journey has mattered to this community and to me. You made it. And what comes next is the most important thing I will teach you. So, I want to ask you something that I think you are completely honest, might be one of the most important question you have ever sat with. Where do you look for safety? Where do you look for safety? Not security, not certainty, safety. The felt experience of truly, genuinely being okay, of being able to breathe, of trusting that you will be all right. Most of us look for it in another people, in a partner who doesn't leave, in a partner who doesn't leave, rather, in a parent who finally understands, in a friend who always pick up your call, in approval from someone whose opinion feels like oxygen. You try to get that approval, that belief you think or you try to hear from someone else. Or rather, we look for it in circumstances, in a stable income, in a plan that accounts for every variable, in a life that is predictable enough that nothing can surprise us into panic. Or say in full control, if I can manage enough, achieve enough, prepare enough, nothing can destabilize me. And the reason none of those things have ever given you the safety you are looking for, not completely, not permanently, is not because you found the wrong people or made the wrong plans or say haven't achieved enough yet. No, it is because safety, real, lasting, unshakable safety, was never outside you. It was always something that had to be built within you. And today, on the final, when we are approaching the final days, I'm going to show you exactly how. And this last 3 days is definitely going to be crucial. With that, I would like you to comment, in the chat. Where probably have you been looking for safety? Any one word or one place or person, one thing, just drop it in the chat if you feel comfortable. And with that, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Ishita Bakshi and I'm life coach specialized in emotional intelligence, a counseling psychologist, a DMIT counselor, and I also work with healing practices like pranic healing, Reiki, and crystal. What my work really focuses on is a thing that we are going to explore today. So, if you have seen or if you have been following since day one, there are a lot of things that comes in a connective one session to second, second to third. Somehow, I won't say that if you attend today's session, you won't understand anything. However, you will see there are certain patterns, there are certain flow which I have covered since day one. So I would really say that if you have come across this video today, try to start when you have time from day one. Try to see those things that we have covered, and lastly, this week four, we are heading towards that transformation. And today we are going to talk about the understanding that real emotional health, real resilience, real freedom is not something someone else gives you. It is something you build carefully and intentionally inside yourself. The ability to be your own safe place, to regulate yourself through difficulty, to return to your own center no matter what is happening around you. And that is the work today, it comes full circle. And as we know that 20 days 28 days ago we went into the identity, into the body, into how this childhood shapes the brain, into the relationships, burnout, achievement, the nervous system. We went into places that most people spend their entire lives carefully avoiding. Nobody talks about it, nobody wants to understand why and what of everything. And you showed up probably night after night for yourself. I'm really glad. I appreciate that. And I want you to understand what that means, not just as a compliment, however, as a fact. Every time you showed up to this work, you were giving your nervous system a repetition of the most important signal there is, that you are worth your own attention. It's like 28 days of repetitions of that signal. That is not nothing. That is the beginning of everything. And today we close with one skill that makes all of it sustainable. The one practice without which everything else we have learned will stay theoretical. That is how to create emotional safety within yourself. And with this, I would again, today I'm going to talk about one composite. I want to narrate something to you today, the way we discuss cases in counseling sessions while learning, undergoing the training, not clinically, but humanly. Because this particular pattern explains everything we are talking about today better than any theory could. So, it is about a boy. Let's say he was 10 years old. And let me share the observation which is found across clinical work with children during studies. And this boy was bright, imaginative, deeply feeling. His parents described him as a child who had always needed a little more reassurance than other children. He could not sleep without the hallway light on, not because of darkness, because the light meant someone was still awake, someone was there. He could not start a new task at school without first checking, is this right? Am I doing wrong, right or wrong? Please confirm. Not for grades, for permission to continue existing in the activity without fear of being wrong. And I remember we talked about the description that was mentioned in the notes as needing reassurance. And I want you to hear differently. This child had never learned not because anyone failed him, because no one had known to teach him that he could be the source of his own okayness. I'm okay. Every time he felt uncertain, his nervous system immediately looked outward for confirmation, for approval, for the light, for a voice that said, you are fine, you can continue, you're not in danger, you're doing great. That appreciation. And when that confirmation came, he got relaxed that, okay, I'm safe, I'm right, briefly, until the next moment of uncertainty when he needed it again. And he was not anxious because he was weak. He was anxious because the internal architecture of safety, the capacity to tell himself, I'm okay, and genuinely feel it from inside, it has never been built. And to be very frank, we are never giving that importance to build that in every child from the childhood, from probably any age, I would say, any child, from the beginning of their childhood. His safety lived entirely outside himself. Like I said, in the other people's assurance, in the light, in external confirmation. And the world cannot always provide that. People who keep on seeking approval, assurance, it's not always a good sign, because you will not always find right people to be rely on. Not reliably, no, not at 2 a.m., not in school corridor, not in the middle of a difficult moment when no one is there. The work with him, and this is the part when I want you to really hear, was not about removing the light from the hallway. It was about helping him discover that he had a light inside himself that has always been there, that he simply had never been shown how to turn on. Everyone has that light inside them. You, me, everyone. It's just that sometime we delay it to find it, just because we are looking that assurance approval from others. Month by month, through very small and very consistent practices of self acknowledgement, self soothing, and self trust, he began to develop what attachment researchers call an internal secure base. A place inside himself he could return to when the world felt uncertain. And in today's world, if we always rely on the external factor, if we don't make our kids learn that in the moments of uncertainty, always look that light within you, not from outside. That's when the difference will be seen. 6 months later, his mother mentioned something in passing that she thought was small. She said he turned the hallway light off himself last week. I didn't ask him to do. He just did. And when I asked him about it in the morning, he said, I didn't need it anymore. I knew you were there, even in the dark. And I would say this is very relatable. I mean, oftentimes, why we switch on the light, say if the kid starts learning to sleep alone, and there will be certain certain situations where they will say, no, specifically put that light on. Why do you think that's so? I mean, we often might say that, oh my god, he's just like, a little scared, or say he's thinking. Why? Because he just want that assurance in his mind that, okay, when that light is on, that means somebody is watching me, parents are there. And every single one of us, at some level, in some area of our lives, is still waiting for someone to tell us it is okay to turn the light off, isn't it? Today, I want to help you learn how. However, before we do that, I want you to share in the comment, where in your life are you still looking for external confirmation before you allow yourself to feel okay? Be true to yourself. Where do you see that? If you're not comfortable, it's okay. But I would love to see what or where, or say you just say to yourself, where in your life are you still looking for that external confirmation before you allow yourself to feel okay? Now, let us understand the science of that emotional safety. So, again, we are going to talk about the three pillars: the internal secure base from the attachment neuroscience, the prefrontal cortex as the seat of self regulation, and the research on interoception as the mechanism of self knowing. Again, whenever I talk these lines, because see, even it's not something medical background I belong to. However, when I learn certain information, it's always I try to put that across, because people feel comfortable when, or say, when you hear something that there is there is a science backed researchers on these. So, coming to part one, the internal secure base, that is what attachment science teaches adults. To understand what creating emotional safety within yourself actually means, we begin with one of the most foundational concepts in developmental psychology, that is the attachment theory by Dr. John Bow and Mary, that is on internal working models. So, the theory, when it was developed and it was established that human beings are neurologically wired from birth to seek safety in relationship. That is, first with a primary caregiver, that is, when a kid is born and the people around, that's their primary caregiver, and later through the internalization of that relational experience within themselves. So that's the reason we often see, right, the kids, they seek for that, emotional support, safety in the beginning. And Ainsworth research identified what she called the secure base, the experience of having a reliably safe, responsive attachment figure from which a child could explore the world to which they could return when frightened. So you will see for a kid specifically that Maximum times, if they are scared, if they just get panicked, they will immediately go to, you know, the person whom they feel secure. Majorly, it is mother when they are around, or father. Yes? So, children who experienced consistent, secure attachment developed what Paul Beeks called an internal working model, a neural representation of safety that they carried with them, independent of the caregiver's physical presence. Crucially, research by Dr. Mary demonstrated that this internal secure base can be built in adulthood, even in those who did not receive consistent secure attachment in childhood, through what she called earned security, the sustained, intentional work of developing self awareness, self compassion, and coherent self narrative. The brain, even in adulthood, can build the internal architecture of safety it did not receive early in life, and that is very much possible. Boy in the story was looking for his secure base in the hallway light, in his, you know, thoughts that parents are still awake. Definitely, the hallway light can, I mean, in the practically thinking of, definitely the parents won't stay awake the whole night, right? But that's where in his thought related that, external confirmation that, okay, I'm safe, they are awake. The work was teaching him to build that base inside himself, to become for himself the reliably safe presence he had always needed someone else to be. That is what emotional self regulation at its deepest level actually is. Not managing your emotions alone, not controlling your reactions, however, becoming your own secure base. So, self regulation is not a coping skill. It is the architecture of an internal safe home, a place within yourself that you can return to reliably, regardless of what is happening around you. Building it is the single most important emotional work a human being can do. With that, part two, the prefrontal cortex, your brain's self regulation center. Now, let's look at what is happening in the brain when we are and are not emotionally regulated. So, neuroscience behind that, that is the prefrontal cortex and the emotional regulation by Dr. Daniel Siegel. The prefrontal cortex, the most evolutionary recent part of the human brain, is the seat of what Dr. Daniel calls the nine functions of the middle prefrontal cortex. That is, body regulation, attuned communication, emotional balance, response flexibility, fear modulation, empathy, insight, moral awareness, and intuition. Together, these nine functions constitute what most people would recognize as emotional intelligence, wisdom, and genuine self awareness. The prefrontal cortex develops through early relational experiences. However, critically, Siegel's research demonstrates that it continues to develop and strengthen throughout adulthood through mindfulness awareness, reflective practice, and coherent self narrative. Every time you pause before reacting, name what you're feeling, or consciously choose your response, you are literally thickening the neural architecture of your prefrontal cortex. That's why we often say that self regulation is not a personality trait, it is trainable, measurable, developable brain function. We often see people around and say that, oh my god, they are doing it so calmly, they are able to handle every situation so with ease, nothing impacts it. No, they are training their brain to do that way, and maybe maximum time they have learned it so early that it is included in their you know personality trait. It feels as if it is inbuilt. However, this is something has been developed throughout. This is why the practices across this entire 28 journey, the journaling, the body scans, the breath work, the reflective questions, were never just nice exercises. Every single one of them was a prefrontal cortex strengthening exercise. That's why I say whenever you come back to any of the session, if there is something that feels that okay, this is something which I have been dealing it for a while, try doing that consistently for a few days. And I would have mentioned certain specific days for you to continue. And if there are one or two situations which is definitely you are struggling with, you can split it and plan your day. And again, if there is still more difficulty, you can definitely reach out to me with the link which is always shared in the description. So that's why I said that all the exercises that has been there, it's a way to strengthen. That was prefrontal cortex strengthening exercises. Every time you paused and reflected instead of reacting, you were building that neural architecture of your own internal safe base. And in these 28 days, you have been building something real. And every reflective practices, exercises you have done in this journey, every pause, every activity, every moment of honest self inquiry was a deposit into the neural architecture of self regulation. You have been building your internal safe base for 28 days, and today you learn to live with it. With that, part three, interoception, the ability to know what you're feeling from inside. And here is the best piece, the one that makes everything else possible. Neuroscience on this interoception and emotional self awareness by Dr. Antonio Damasio and Dr. Sarah. This is something, it's a brain available, probably it's an activity to sense and interpret signals from inside the body: heart rate, breath, gut sensation, muscle tension, temperature changes. Does this make relatable? Many people have this sudden heart rate goes high, speeds up, there is some temperature issues, you feel sudden feverish. That is interoception. That's the brain ability to sense and interpret signals from the inside body. And this research established that interoceptive awareness is the neurological foundation of emotional self knowledge. We do not first think of our emotions and then feel them. We first feel them as bodily signals, and the brain interprets those signals as emotional experience. I'm sure people would be understanding this the vice versa. You would think that okay, we first think of our emotions and then feel them. No, it gives you that signal. And that's why we often always we have read, I mean, probably gone through it like yesterday or day before. Body keeps scores. And when these informations, these signals are avoided for a long period, you know, body is, or body will let you know in a more difficult manner. So Dr. Sarah research at the University of Sussex demonstrated that individuals with higher interoceptive accuracy, the ability to accurately perceive their own internal bodily states, so significantly higher emotional regulation capacity, more accurate emotional self knowledge, and lower anxiety. Critically, interoception is also trainable. Practices that direct sustained, non judgmental attention to the internal body experience, that is, breath work, body scanning, mindful movement, measurably improve this interoceptive accuracy within just 8 weeks. The person who knows that they are feeling in their body in real time can regulate before the emotions or emotional wave become a tsunami. And that is internal emotional safety at its most practical. Research on the self regulation and earned security in adults, that is from Dr. Mary. Dr. Mary Main's adult attachment interview research demonstrated that the single strongest predictor of secure attachment in adults, regardless of their childhood experience, was what she called narrative coherence. The ability to tell the story of their own emotional life with clarity, honesty, and integration. And adults who had built, earned security were not those who had perfect childhoods. They were those who had done the work of understanding their own emotional history and who had developed a coherent, compassionate relationship with their own inner experience. That relationship with one's own inner life is the foundation of every other healthy relationship. It is also the definition of emotional self regulation at its deepest level. So, everything we have done in this 28 days, the identity work, or say relationship work, or nervous system work, was building towards this. The ability to know what you're feeling as you are feeling it, to stay present with your own experience without being swept away by it, to be for yourself the safe, consistent, non judgmental presence you have always needed. That is self regulation, that is internal emotional safety. And it is not something you either have or you don't. It is something you build one practice at a time, one honest moment of self awareness at a time, starting right now. That's why we probably, I always say, I have experienced that the lack of this, the inability to do it at the right time, what are the challenges you can face? And that's the reason my mission is to bring that awareness that this is something needed. We need to bring that to our young generation so that we develop emotional intelligent adult, not struggling and then thinking to get it done. However, it's never too late. Say you can't say that okay, we didn't do it, then we're lost. No, it is trainable at any age. Acknowledge, awareness is most important, that yes, this is something is needed. This is very much important. So let us do one guided practice once again. So for our final, one of the practice on day 28, I want you to give something you can carry for the rest of your life, not a framework. I call this probably internal safe base practice. It is the practice of returning to yourself deliberately, compassionately, and completely whenever the world pulls you toward looking for safety outside. And right, just today you do it and you feel complete transformational. It is no way possible. There are people, not there are people, I would say, but then there are situations where it depends person to person. It might take few days, few years, anything, because it again depends on what situation they are into. But however, if you do consistent practice, it can give you that difference within few weeks time. So you have to do it, that deliberate, compassionate, self, you know returning practice. So this is again a practice. You can do it in 5 minutes in bathroom, or before a difficult meeting, whenever you wake up in the middle of night anxious, anytime in the middle of a hard conversation, when you feel yourself starting to lose the thread back to yourself. It has three movements, and they mirror the three things every secure base provides: presence, acceptance, and return. All right, ready to do that? So, first is movement one: come back to now. That is, you cannot be your own safe base from somewhere else. You have to arrive. Place one hand on your heart, one on your belly, and close your eyes. Take one slow breath in, count for 4, and exhale for 6. Now feel the weight of your hands on the body and feel your feet on the floor. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin, and then say silently, I am here, I am in my body. This moment is real. You are not solving anything right now. You are not improving anything. You are simply arriving in your own presence. That arrival, that act of coming back into your body instead of out of it, is the first act of internal safety. The body cannot feel safe in a mind that is somewhere else. Come back, you are here, and just feel. Then the second movement, that is, a safe base does not require you to be okay, it accepts you as you are. So I often say that it's okay not to be okay. And this is very important for everyone to understand. Even when we go through this training of a psychologist, you not something that you always are full on running. There will be days where things are or might get difficult, but you have known the techniques and you have the tools yourself. So, again, still with your hand on your heart, ask yourself honestly, without judgment, what is here right now? What am I actually feeling in this moment? Don't answer with what you think you should feel. Answer what you are feeling in the moment. And don't reach for the more presentable emotions that, okay, what the person will think of me, I should say something else. No, not needed. And you're doing this exercise for you, you're not showing it to someone. So be very authentic. What is actually here? Is it kind of fear, loneliness, anger, grief, numbness, or a kind of confusion? Let it be exactly what it is. Say to yourself, I see this and I'm not going to run from this. I am not going to judge this. This feeling is allowed to be here. So these are lines you should probably come back to this video and write it down. Probably, I see this. I'm not going to run from this. I'm not going to judge this. and this feeling is allowed to be here. That acknowledgement, that simple act of seeing what is present without flinching, is the second act of internal safety. That is, a safe base says all of you is welcome here, even the parts you are ashamed of, even the parts you don't understand yet. And with that, movement three. Go to the last one. That is, safety is not place you stay. It is a place you always know how to return to. Right? You can't say that, okay, now this place will always be safe for me. It cannot be. That's why I say you have to return to that place. Now, again, take a final deep breath, and on the exhale, consciously soften the muscles around your heart. Just take it easy and say these words slowly, meaning, everyone, I am my own safe place. I am my own safe place. I do not need the world to be certain for me to be okay. I do not need the world to be certain for me to be okay. I can meet difficulty without losing myself in it. I know how to come back. I am coming back right now. By saying these words, you gently open your eyes slowly. With that, you feel the ground under you. You have just completed a full cycle of that emotional self regulation, arrival, acknowledgement, and return. And that is the practice, that is the architecture of internal safety. And you can do that anywhere in any moment for the rest of your life. You just did it. You already know how. So, what I would recommend is, because when I am doing this now and when you are practicing, you'll be hearing me and you might say or practice it saying to yourself. What I could suggest is, whenever such, you just go to this recording, make that lines for you and the situation in the moment one, two, three, whatever we discussed. That will make things more workable for you. Okay, so it will be easy for you to recall. Maybe you can put that across, that what you have to say in this moment. That practice, those three movements, that is what the probably boy learned to do instead of looking for the light. That is why the other girl that we discussed learned to do instead of waiting for every condition to be green. That is what every person who has done this work with me has eventually learned, that the safest place they will ever find is the one they build inside themselves, nowhere else. And now, so do you. So, in the comment, just let me know, what is that one thing you know about yourself today that you didn't know for these many days? That one thing that you came to know. Again, if you're not comfortable, it's okay not to mention. So, as we are coming to the closure of this session, so 28 days, I'm really excited that I have been with all of you since these many days. And 28 days of choosing this work over everything else, that was completely appreciated, because you were competing for your attention to be here and you made it. You have sat with a lot of identity questions that most people run from. You have learned what your body has been holding. You have understood, perhaps for the first time, that why your relationship has felt the way you have, why burnout felt the way it did for so long, why achievement left you empty at times, why rebuilding has felt so slow. And today you learn the thing that makes all of it sustainable. That you are your own safe place. That's the security you have been searching for, has always been available from within. Be self dependent, what we say, be reliable for yourself. And that is not something like a motivational statement, it's a neurological fact. And now you have the science, the practice, and the lived experience of these many days, right? That hence I always made sure that I give you deliberately those researches. I'm sure many people will not understand the technical terms. You don't need to. With those technical terms, I mention you what this is about, what this says, for you to understand. And again, this is not something, there is a flaw that I'm talking about. It's just that these are certain things very important, and when you know them and when you know to deal with them, that makes things work, right? And I want to say something honest as we close. These days were extraordinary. However, this is a beginning. We still left with 2 days, right? So I would say that this is the depth of work, yeah, the kind of session, uh, the practice that we do with people. And you know, the difference between someone who has learned these things and someone who lives them is not intelligence, it is not willpower, it is not even commitment. It is just that you are putting that practice. It's the depth of work, the kind that goes beyond every session practice and even a month. So that's what we probably, as we spoke about, the boy didn't turn the light off because he understood the neuroscience of attachment. He turned it because over the 6 months of consistent safe work, his nervous system started feeling safe, learned the truth of it in his body. That body level knowing that it is what I want for every person in this room. So, in this one on one, I would like to say that um, in my one on one connect, we actually talk about building that internal secure space as well, specifically for your nervous system, your history, that can be anything, your wiring, not a generic practice, but yours that suits your requirement. Hence, we use DMIT profiling to understand how you are innately wired to process emotion and make decisions. Then, the psychological frameworks to map your specific patterns. That really helps and make things so easier. And then the energy based healing, that is pranic reiki, to work with what lives in the body and the energy field that psychology alone cannot always search and resolve. So people who do this with me do not come out the other side feeling like, you know, better, some characters, but they are better person for their, of their emotional life. And I would say this is something, if this month has moved something in you, and if you're ready, not someday, but now, to take the movement somewhere real and lasting, you can reach out to me through the description, through the link in the description. Connect with me. It would be a safe space to discuss, understand, and all the discussions, all the conversations are strictly confidential. So it will be a safe space for you to talk about. So thank you once again for showing up for these many days. And definitely, we will meet up tomorrow in day 29. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. You've earned these days of real, honest, courageous work belongs to you now. Nobody would be able to take it back. That's something very important. Thank you and see you tomorrow. Bye.